Chris continues to chuck ducks up here. Just as a very, very brief and short introduction. So, welcome again to GrrCON 2019 and to Chris Roberts' session. This can be a Q&A on the current state of the information security industry. That sounds way too formal when I look at you.
No, it's pure. We're going to have some fun. All right. I originally wasn't meant to be here this year.
Really?
Yeah, there's some stupid stuff going on in life.
Huh. Well,
and so welcome. I wasn't going to be here.
All I can tell you is welcome to Grand Rapids. Thanks for being here and chuck some ducks.
Thank you. All right, who else needs ducks? By the way, the caveat with these are, when you get a duck, if you get a duck, they have to be on, what the hell's the hashtag? Duck Army? What? It's Duck Army. A, tag GrrCON, and B, tag Duck Army. Yeah, all right. Oh, shit. John did, yeah, no shit. All right, I'm out of duck. No shit, I got more ducks. All right, I'll chuck these as we go through. All right, there's other fun stuff. So yeah, we'll make sure that all gets on there. We'll have fun. All right, everybody coming in? Come on, get your asses in. I don't bite too much, unless you pay me. Depends. I've got a lot of lawyer bills I've got to pay. Who's been messing around over the car hacking village, by the way? Has anybody gotten a chance to go hang out over there? Go hang out over there. We've had Robert brought his own personal Tesla in. We had A lot of fun, and B, it was an amazing collaborative thing. A bunch of us just sat down. Poor Robert was having a massage, and we got into the Tesla in under a minute. While he was having a massage, because we set the alarm off a couple of times, as some of you might have heard. Then we managed to figure out how to actually jack the damn Tesla, and then literally it's taken us like 3 hours to get into the freaking glove box of the damn thing. But we're in, and we got the money, so we're in good shape. All right, come on. Come sit down, don't make a nuisance by the door. I promise, it's civilized, mostly. All right, so here's some of the stuff we're going to talk about. I was going to have a co-host up here. I've lost her. She's floating around somewhere. I'll point her out if I can find her. Or she's escaped. So these are just some of the things we're going to go through. And honestly, I'm going to throw it open to everybody. As I said, this year, totally informal, bit of fun. Just kind of kick back a little bit on this one. For those of you that don't know me, squirrels. It really just all it comes down to. For those of you that do know me, a very good friend of mine gave me that picture in the middle. So it's like, yay! It's on the internet. So first question. Oh, you are a fucking angel. I'm sorry, you guys can just go to hell for 30 seconds while I can't. Okay, I can break into a fucking Tesla and I can't open the damn beer bottle. Oh, I got it. Yay. You're awesome. Here, I owe you a patch. And I also owe you all of this shit for... sorry, I love you guys, but it's beer and it's good. You're awesome. Thank you. This is so... Oh my god, it's Goose Island. For those of you that have not had Goose Island, I'm just going to have a moment, if you don't mind. Speaking of moments, which one of you bastards hacked the damn Amway hotel at 6 o'clock this morning and turned the fucking fire alarm on? Turned the warning to the fire alarm on first, and then the stupid fire alarm came on. Oh god, this is good. All right. First question. First way of looking at this. Why are we failing? For which, it all comes down to a kettle. This is not a colonial English tea versus coffee thing. Cast your minds back to when you were all kids. And your guardians or parents, one of the things they said to you was, it's a stove or it's a kettle. Don't touch it. It's hot. What did we all do? Touch the stupid thing, didn't we? As we got a little older, and as we went through the school system, as you and your friends got together and they were like, hey, this is a really cool idea, and in the back of your mind, that little voice went, oh, hell no, it's not. What do? We chased off into the distance and we got our asses handed to us. So my thing on this whole part of the industry is back to the kettle example. we as humans seem to have to need to experience something before we actually fix it. One of the challenges we have in this industry is we've been talking for 20, 30 plus years now. Come on in, sit down, don't make the place look untidy. Grab a duck. Here, people that have just come in, have a duck. There you go. It has to be bloody good catch. That was freaking awesome. Yeah, he's not getting the beer. Bugger off. So as us in the industry, and Kathy will have talked about this, we've been on stage a number of times, a couple of us are talking about this, but I think it needs to be discussed more, is how do we communicate with people around us in the industry? Because if I simply come up to you and go, hey, the kettle's hot, and you're like, oh, whatever. If I go like, look, no, let's talk about physics, let's talk about chemistry, let's talk about all these wonderful things, and how the freaking metal is hot because the water's bloody boiling in it because you're putting electricity into the stupid thing, you're like, hey, I like that idea. But if I get hold of your hand and I go, fucking thing's hot, and you go, oh shit, it is, I'm not doing that again. We translate that into our business world. And we see that so often in the business world, which is where I'm like, hey, your ass is going to get handed to you. You're going to get breached unless you do A, B, C, and D. We're perfectly okay. We are invulnerable, or we have cyber liability insurance. And then I sit down and I have a conversation with you and I go, hey, here are the statistics. Here is the businesses. Here is the last 2 months worth of breaches. And you're like, oh, that's terrible. That's a really bad thing. But I'm fine. I've got Palo Alto and I've got a firewall and I am invulnerable. And I just sit there and I wait for your ass to get handed to you. And you go, well, damn it, why didn't you tell me these things after you've been breached? So the challenge then becomes, can we actually fix the humans? Well, this is probably the simplest way of looking at it. So, for years, we've all flip-flopped backwards and forwards. There have been numerous times I've stood on stages, this one included, and simply said we need to exclude the humans from all of these things. And eventually machines will take over and, well, we'll be out of the picture, hopefully. There is a possibility of that one. But there's also the thing where it's like, look, we can't give up on humans. We shouldn't give up on humans. And the question then becomes, how do we effectively communicate with everybody around us? Quick show of hands. How many of you are aware of the whole all-day DevOps thing that's going on November the 6th? All right, the rest of you, it's a really nice all-day, 24-hour, free conference. 150 of us online all around the globe talking about collaboration between development, operations, and security. And how do we work effectively together? One of the best ways we were looking at this the other day, I was talking to somebody in a leadership organization. And somebody started talking about networks. And you could see this CEO was like, does not compute, must go to happy place. And I'm like, what the fuck? And this guy's like, oh, IP address and this, and it's beating shit out of you. And it's like, you roll the blame dice. It's like, oh, it was Russia today. And you're like, okay, that's not sinking in. When we talk to humans, let's talk about, instead of an IP address, it's a house address. It's the same thing. When we talk about ports, we all talk about port 80 or 23 or 21 or 3389. Screw that. Talk about windows and doors in the house. And how when you leave them open, it's a problem. Bless you. If you sneeze again, you have lurgy and we take you outside and drown you. Conflu. It's the easiest way to deal with it. I'm sorry. I haven't got my taser with me. That did get taken off me at TSA. They let all the hacking shit through that I can basically take half the planet over with, and they took my taser. Bastards. I'm kind of torn. It's like whiskey, yeah, this is good. I'm on an airplane later, so it'll be fun. So, from that standpoint, we start going, okay, well, how do we deal with the humans? How do we communicate with the humans? How do we have conversations with them? And it's simple. You, in this room, quick show of hands, how many of you are in our industry? Security, IT, InfoSec, development, or whatever. All right, I've said this last year, and I'll say it again this year. Next time you come to one of these conferences, bring somebody with you who's not in this industry. Bribe them with tea, coffee, buns, scones. I don't know if you have to bloody just like knock them over the head for half an hour while you drag them here. But bring somebody along who's outside of this industry. Help them understand what we are about. And conversely, go to other conferences and meetings that have nothing to do with this. Start helping and bringing everybody else into this realm, and also start going out to these realms and having conversations with people. And again, it's their language, not ours. So, obviously, we're in a technology world. There's a lot of vendors out there that are saying that they're going to fix everything. So the question is, can technology fix it? Here's my answer to that one. If you experience it as a human, and if I get out of the way of the damn screen, you might actually listen, you might actually do something about it. This is a human thing. We have, arguably, most of the technology that we need to fix a lot of these problems. Buying next year's firewall with a different color blinky light isn't really going to serve you much better than this year's firewall. Buying endpoint protection and detection, which, let's be honest, is like antivirus with better marketing, isn't going to help you any more effectively if you haven't sorted the human element out. The stuff I do, we work in deception technology. It's great if you deploy it properly. But if I walk into a company and they're like, oh, we put deception around the servers, I'm like, what about fucking all of your users, for God's sakes? What about your cloud? What about all the ICS, IoT stuff? Oh, well, we didn't think about that. Dumbasses. Obviously, we all have cyber. Cybers, all this. I should probably drink at this point, shouldn't I? Sorry. Cyber. This is something that you can take to the organizations that you work with. Many of us sit on the red team side of the world. We actually know what it is to collaborate, communicate, and cooperatively break everybody else's shit. We just did it with the Tesla, for crying out loud. All of us, there's like half a dozen of us, we've got the pictures on the internets now. We have, as an attacker, a much more effective method of communicating and collaborating. If I want to break into an organization, I grab maybe the framework from somebody in North Korea or somebody in probably somewhere else. I grab the tools from somebody in the Soviet Union or Israel. I grab the financial stuff from the guys over in Estonia, and I grab a real nice botnet from the guys down in Brazil. And we communicate, collaborate, and when I've taken all of your data, I monetize it through however many means and channels. We, on the attacking side, have figured it out. But unfortunately, inside organizations, let's be honest, we're still in our silos. How many of you can honestly look in a mirror and admit to yourself that you've maybe blamed the developers, or blamed the network team, or blamed operations, or users? I've blamed my own mother and grandmother, for crying out loud, on stage over the years. But unfortunately, a lot of it comes down to us. We're the ones in the industry. We're the ones that have to be the ones that reach out and communicate with everybody else out there. We have to be the ones that eat the humble pie, go to the rest of the business and go, how can we help you? How can I help you understand the risks? And you know what? There are some organizations which just are not going to listen. Simple as that. There are users which won't listen, no matter what you do. Your job is to build as much protection around them and put as much of a safety net underneath them so that when they do fail, they don't take everybody else down with them. Sometimes that's the best we can do. Taser them in a dark alley is also another option. The current state of information security in one slide. Yes, feel free to use this. All right, so obviously it means we have to spend more money, doesn't it? I mean, for God's sakes, what do? We throw more money at the problem. This is what we are going to be spending this year in security. $124 billion freaking dollars. Now, some of that is sunk costs. The gear and technology that you already have has to be maintained to some degree. But so much of that is new spend. The blinky lights at RSA and at Black Hat and everywhere else. The vendors telling you they can fix your problem, solve security, anti-hacking software, bastards. Simple stuff. Your responsibilities as the gatekeepers is to be asking those awkward questions, is to be having the conversations with the leadership and educating them in a way that they understand, so that when they do get blinded by propaganda bullshit that so many people are putting out there, they actually get to see through it. In other words, you get to be the cynic for the company. So obviously, we're spending all this money. Is it actually helping? Well, short answer, no. 6 trillion by 2021. Damages and all the other shit rolled in. We have to change this. I think if memory serves me right, somebody did the numbers on that. That's like the 3rd largest global expenditure. It's crazy. So, the fact we're spending all the money, the fact we're not doing much with it, obviously we have to have the conversation. Of course we can blame the bloody French. All right, who recognizes what that is? Give me an answer. All right. One, shit, that was close. Who else gave me imagine? No, I'm just, who, where? There. Oops, sorry, shit, too far. Oh, good bloody catch. Splendid, that man. All right, show of hands. How many of you think you could keep an attacker out of your organization? Any of you? Fair comment. A semi-averagely well-skilled attacker. You can unplug whatever you want. I'm still coming in through the front door. All right. If we truly believe that we can't keep anybody out, why the hell are we still sitting behind firewalls, IDSs, IPSs, DLPs, HIDs, literally like this, like the Trojan's gun? Fucking bring it on, bastards. When the son of a bitch is probably already on the inside going, shit, your data's unorganized. Here, let me just figure it out for you quickly. Just need to zip it all up properly before I exfil it. Using cat videos on the internet. So if we truly don't think that we can keep somebody out, why are we still focused on this premonition, preconceived idea of a perimeter? All of you should be having the conversations with your organizations and the people that are around you and everybody saying there is no such thing as the perimeter. That the devices we carry, the systems we hack, every piece of this technology is an attack vector, let alone the two-legged people that we have to deal with as well. It's all an attack vector. So how do we approach things differently? How do we assume that somebody has already breached? And at which point in time, A, how are you going to know about it? And what are you going to do about it when you finally find them? All right. This is the biggie. This is something Kathy's talked about a lot. And Kathy, years ago, just for reference, challenged me. Because there is a distinct possibility on a regular basis the taser comes out and I get an itchy trigger finger. And apparently that is not necessarily a good way of fostering, well, any of that shit, really. So I got challenged. And I got challenged to go, hey, you're better than that. How can you actually communicate more effectively rather than just tasering somebody? By the way, if you do take one of the new... I met the tasers. I was in Phoenix. The freaking taser, what's it called now? Axiom or whatever it is? Isn't that something out of a Pixar movie, Axiom? I don't remember. Somebody Google that for me. The guys were sitting there and it's like, it's not called taser anymore. I'm like, look, I've spent years talking to people about tasers. It's still a freaking taser. If you go gangster with the taser, so instead of doing this, you go sideways with it, take 2 extra steps backwards from your intended target. You can put one in the forehead and one in the groin. It's really fun. For those of you that follow me on LinkedIn, I actually put a scale out there of basically offenses against us, not just us in the industry, just humans in general, and whether you just had to go gangster on them or whether you needed to put them in a swimming pool and put one in the forehead, one in the swimming pool, amped cattle prods, all sorts of things. There's an actual tally of exactly what you need to do with people. However, what we should be doing is this. We've kind of rattled on about communication and collaboration. Coordination is another big one. A lot of us like to tinker. A lot of us like to experiment. A lot of us like to do all sorts of things. Many of you have seen me over the years talk about everything from healthcare things to cows, for crying out loud, and all these other wonderful things. That's great, but how can you take the research and the stuff you enjoy and make a difference? How can you break a Tesla but improve the safety of all of them? How can we do that from responsible disclosure standpoint? The stuff I was doing with the medical devices a couple of years ago, we actually talked to a lot of the folks doing basically all of the stuff with nanotech and bio-nanotech, and now we're trying to work with them. The stuff from I Am the Cavalry, the guys and the work that they're doing there to actually collaborate and coordinate their efforts and other efforts from people everywhere around in how to make things safer for all of us. So keep on researching, keep on messing with stuff, but then figure out how you can do things better for others. Some stuff I'm working on at the moment is with first responders. How many of you, quick show of hands, how many of you have basically sat in a queue of traffic and the bloody blues and twos comes by, be it an ambulance, a fire truck, or something else, and some dingleberry dickhead is sitting on their telephone not paying attention? So we're working on a solution for that. We're working on something where we put near-field communication in an NFC field in every single basically vehicle, and then we put something on everybody's phones. Just simple stuff. That came out of fucking around with garage door openers and NFCs. So as you start tinkering with things, as you start breaking and enjoying basically what we're doing, think about how you can make things safer for others around you. Which brings us to this one. Why do we need to change? Keep it simple. I can't put it any simpler than that. As an industry, we are still in our infancy. We're probably only in what? The second generation. Those of us that are getting old and fuddled and starting to get addled brains, we're trying to bring the next generation along. And then the generation after that hopefully is going to realize the mistakes we've made and hopefully make different ones. But when we first started, the worst that happened was that somebody broke into a room with the mainframe on it and caused chaos and mayhem. 5, 10 years ago, similar kind of discussions. We screw up doing our jobs now, people die. And for those of you coming into this industry, that is a weight that you have to bear and be willing to understand. Which is why it's no longer any good to just go, I can break shit. Figure out how to fix it. Figure out how to work with everybody else and help them understand how to fix it. So how do we change? What do we need to actually do, apart from the 4 C's? Well, it's an overused statement, but it's something a lot of us have been talking about. I'll give you some examples. Let's talk about the human. We don't understand security. Can anybody actually measure security? And this is just a simple, I'll put a duck up on it. if anybody can quantify or measure security. Now think about safety. Safety's simple. You're either alive or you're dead. Easy, really. You either survived it or you didn't. We can quantify it, and as humans, we also know safety. 60,000 years ago, we stuck our head out of a cave and we either survived the day or we got eaten by something else. This day and age, there are people, groups, regions, religions, belief systems which still have safety issues, even in this country. So we understand safety. So when we talk to people and we discuss computers and we discuss how to improve things for people, why don't we couch it in a safety conversation? Why don't we say, hey, the reason we want you to put a 6-digit passcode, or the reason we want you to do something different with your telephone is to help protect your family, is to help protect the kids, is to keep everybody safe. Simple conversation. Let's talk about removing the easy ways in. How many of you have gone out to Showdown and we can still see 3389 on the freaking internet? Seriously? Why the fuck are we talking about APTs? We're talking about all this other shit. We're buying new blinky lights, yet RDP's still on the fucking internet. This is simple stuff. When the vendor comes on site with their new blinky thing that somehow managed to get past you, and they install it, and they leave, or they try to leave your site with defaults, root Calvin, or admin. Is that Equifax? Take them outside, put them on the front lawn of the company, go gangster, and taser them. No vendor should ever be allowed to leave your facility having left default credentials on their equipment. If they do, you can taser them. I think it's written in law somewhere. If it's not, give us about 10 minutes in the database. All right, perimeter. I think we kind of talked about that one a little bit. Simple stuff. Passwords. Oy vey. We still have the ruddy things. We still have to deal with them. But we can do multi-factor. We can do two-factor. We can do all sorts of other things if we help people understand the reasons from a safety standpoint. Not from a security standpoint, not because you've got to use a 20-character password because nobody ever uses it, and not that, unfortunately, you can use half the password safes out there now because the buggers keep on getting cracked. Oh, is there anybody from NordVPN here? I kid you not, I got an email from them this morning going, hey, we'd like to talk to you about VPNs. I'm like, hey, sod off. All right, the big one. Get a plan. For those of you that are responsible for the organizations, or for those of you that have to go out and talk to companies around you, shit is going to happen. The time to get a plan, especially an incident response plan, is not when the building is burning down. That is not the time to pick up Yellow Pages and start Googling who the hell I have to find out to bring in to support my incident response plan. Get a plan in place, test the plan. This is where bribery comes into play. How many of you are interested in social engineering and human engineering? All right, every single one of you should be. It's part of our job these days. If you want to actually help people understand security and safety, and you want to help further this cause, you need to learn human and social engineering. You literally have to become a psychologist. And part of it is to get a plan. The logic is simple. If I can bribe enough people to come and hang out in a room for a couple of hours with me, with coffee and donuts or whatever the hell it takes, and we can talk about what happens if, what happens when, we practice that plan. How many of you are former military? You remember the live fire exercises? You got shot at. If you stood up, your ass got handed to you. It hurt. But we did that so that when we did end up in the frickin' sandbox and people were shooting at us, we would just sit there and wait for it to slow down for a minute. We didn't stand up running around like headless chickens. That's the whole logic behind get a plan. If you test it on a regular basis, even if you just get your own team around you, you expand it from the team and you're like, hey, let's bring the managers in now, we know what we're doing. Then you're like, hey, let's bring the dev and the ops guys in, let's bring IT in, let's bring OT in. Let's all help further this. Simple stuff. And doesn't cost any money. Worst case scenario, you're out a couple of gallons of coffee and a few muffins. Now, can we taser somebody? Short answer, yes. Okay. I hope the vendors that are in here, none of them have any of this shit going on. There is one. Oh, pray tell. We have things. We've actually got the Tesla. We can run extra cables to the Tesla. What are those things running? Like 40,000 volts or something? That'll be good. Here, vendor. Quick, just put this on your tongue. All right. If anybody tells you they can protect you, you can kick them where it hurts. If anybody tells you they can keep you secure, that's when you can start bringing the tasers out. Anybody puts a fucking hooded figure up with no face on it, they get a paddling pool and a taser with the cattle prod. Okay? I might be a little hot under the collar on this one. Let's be honest. We can't protect anybody. We can't keep people secure. All we can do is reduce the risk. That's it. That's all we can do. Our job is to help people, organizations, and enterprises understand risk and reduce it. Whether they take our advice or not is entirely up to them. But all we're going to be able to do is help them to understand it and go, hey, let me show you ways that you can reduce your risks. Maybe it is upgrading some of the technology. Maybe it is understanding the assets or putting the policies, procedures, controls. Maybe it's putting deception tech in place. Maybe it's putting detection technology in place. But all we're doing is reducing the risk. We're fooling ourselves if we tell people that we can actually protect them. Comes down to the simple question I asked, and we all agreed. You can't stop somebody from getting in. All you can do is do a better job of understanding your own environments, when they're in, and how quickly you can close them down. The person that's waving over there, would you like a ducky? Oh, you've got people coming? We'll have a ducky as well. Oh, too far. Almost nice catch. So, quick one. Some of the stupid, crazy shit that I'm working on. This is the stuff I'm messing around with these days. Yeah. Takes a second, doesn't it? But it's kind of fun. Wolf in sheep's clothing. This is the stuff I'm messing around with deliberately. Because again, you're not going to stop anybody from getting in. Snowball's chance in hell. So if they're in, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to know about it? So this is some of the logic. How many of you understand quantum mechanics and quantum physics? That want to admit to it in front of everybody else? Okay, good, well done. Everybody recognize that? All right, somebody give me an answer. Too many of you buggers. All right, over here. Nice. I was going to hurl some of those, but they're probably a little too heavy. Here's the logic between Schrödinger's cat and observer theory. The concept is simple. You lock Kitty in the box. Kitty's either pissed off or out of oxygen and dead. Simple theory, really. The only way you know if Kitty is pissed or dead is if you actually interact with the box. If you observe the box. If you look at a lot of the technologies that we have these days, as an attacker, in order for me to trip over an alarm, I actually have to interact with something. I got to poke it, kick it, take it, steal it, or move it. That's not very good. That's like going into the middle of the ocean and fishing and hoping that one fish will eventually bite. What we need to do is change that to much more of an observer theory. As an attacker, I'm always going to be able to get to the first system. Agreed? Snowball's chance in hell of keeping me out. That's why we have users. Oh, look, shiny, click. Thank you, pwned. For reference, are we recording this? We are, aren't we? All right, for reference. How do I say this? Carefully, yeah. There was we'll call it a competition, shall we? There was a competition recently. It was a fully patched Windows 10 system on top of a virtual machine. The competition was to pwn the Windows 10 fully patched system and then to break out of the virtualized environment. The team that won some good money. $25,000 for the Windows 10 system and another $75K for breaking out of a protected VM. It was actually shared between several countries and a bunch of us. 66 seconds to break the Windows 10 machine, a further 2.5 minutes to break out of the protected virtual environment. That's all it took. It was fun. It took us a while to program everything and get it all in place, but that's all it took us to break. So from that standpoint, no, we will get to computer number one. Now, as an attacker, if I'm on computer number one, I'm going to start rifling around. I'm going to start looking at what you have. I'm going to take your NS lookups. I'm going to take everything I possibly can. I'm sure as hell not going to scan shit because that would be stupid. Unless we know it's an MSP who's not watching, at which point I can just use angry IP scan and they won't have a freaking clue. Oh, misconfigured network card, you're fine. So the logic here is, as an observer effect, as a defender, why can't we build something that the moment you start just asking questions, not even interacting, but the moment you go, hey, who is around me? Hey, what credentials do you have? Hey, is this running? Is this system doing? Is something happening? That is the moment that as a defensive system, it should wake up and go, hey, the fuck is going on over here? That is where the cat basically turns from something passive into something a little more active. Schrodinger's revenge. Cat woke up and it was pissed. That's what we're building, and that's what we're trying to look at. And again, I look at everybody here. As you start to look at solutions, as you start to talk to the vendors, hold them accountable. As you bring somebody in, do they help your maturity? Do they move the needle on NIST or anything along those lines? What are they doing to benefit you and the organizations you're responsible for? Not, are they just another tick in the box? But how do they actually help? How do they give more teeth to the blue team? Because that's what it's all about these days. All right. I promised I would put this one up on the internet, so it's up. This is awesome. How many of you remember a couple of years ago? No, 2020, what are we in now? 2019, aren't we? 2017. Bunch of stuff in the Middle East and a bunch of stuff in the US got breached and attacked pretty badly. Well, successfully, depends on how you want to look at it. We blame the Iranians. Bastards. They're all friggin' breaking into our shit and whatever else. What came out in the Post last week? The Russians were actually using the Iranian systems. Like, yay, attribution. Congratulations, we carpet bombed the wrong people. Oops. Now the big question is who's actually riding on the piggyback of the Russians? Do we blame the Chinese? Do we blame the North Koreans? Do we blame NSA? GCHQ? Take your pick. For those of you that have to face these questions, fundamental attribution error. Here's a question for all of you, and I look forward to this one. How many of you think or realize that you would be able to actually pinpoint exactly who an attacker is? Anybody? Come on. I know we've got blame dice, so we can have a pretty good guess at it these days.
Minor attack
How many of you are familiar with the MITRE ATT&CK framework? How many of you are not familiar with it? All right, seriously, get out on the internet and Google it. It's actually really nice. It's not perfect, but it's an amazing framework that was put together by a whole bunch of people who probably need some damn good hugs, actually. Yeah, and it's a really good framework that explains in 12 steps, exactly how an attacker goes from open source intelligence gathering to basically harvesting it and taking it out. MITRE ATT&CK framework, really nice. And again, if you're starting to look at technologies to bring in, start looking at that framework and go, how can your technology help reduce the risks in any one or two or three of these categories? Because if they can't, you are allowed to take them out and boot them in the ass. This one's a biggie. We've got Congress that are demanding that we carpet bomb whoever's attacking us next. And the problem is, we have no freaking clue. We can take a bloody good guess, but even if we know whose hands are on the keyboards, we sure as hell don't know the motivation of the people whose hands they belong to. So we have some huge issues here. So whenever you hear people starting to blame, pick your country of origin, start to question it, please. Step up and have the conversations about how sure are they. Simple stuff. All right. I like this one. I think I probably used this last year, and I'm still using it this year because I really like it. All of us have probably come at this industry from different angles and origins. All of us come from different backgrounds, but we're all in this together. And that same message goes for the organizations you work for and work with. If you're sat around the same table with developers and ops and everybody's blaming the network team, last I checked, you're probably getting the same paycheck from the same company. You're all in the same boat together. Work together. Collaborate together. Because it's the only way this shit's going to change. The blame game, that's got to stop. We're all responsible. Us, probably more than most. Okay. I've used this a few times. I'll continue to use it. This is a community. This conference, B-Sides, All Day DevOps, take your pick on the conferences. This one, kind of my favorite. This is my home. Always has been, probably always will be. Because you know what? There's a bunch of us who are crazy geeks in the industry, and there's a bunch of kids here learning. In fact, we're all learning, but some of them are like, holy shit, what do I have to do next? It's kind of fun to see them. We're here to help everybody. Prima donnas need not apply. If you see a prima donna, you can go gangster on them, please. That's all I ask. As individuals, we're going to fail. It's as simple as that. It is going to take every single one of us. So, that's my final slide. Mic is missed. Simple as that. Go back to that one for a sec. Those of you who know Mike, he's missed. So, raise a glass to him, please. To Mike. All right. All right. We got 10 minutes or so? 5 minutes. All right. Questions from anybody? You don't get any more alcohol until you ask questions. How do we break in the golf box? Okay, so where is our amazing lady? There she is. She's not paying attention. She's Googling. Yeah, you see? You were listening? So she figured it out in the end. We're in there. We're breaking all this shit. We're telling cables and all this other kind of crazy stuff out. She's like, hey, click. Hey, it gets you in. There's a bypass. Yeah. Now, that attack vector has now been taken offline. There is now another $100 in the glove box. And you've got to find another attack vector to get into the glove box. So the idea is to not take bolts to the glove box and unbolt the damn thing, because we thought about doing that too, but to actually try to leave everything intact. So there's a couple of other attack vectors I'll leave all of you with, because I'm actually flying out this evening. So, CAN bus architecture. The glove box on the Tesla, there is no physical glove box. It's an actuator. Figure out what the pit is and see if you can actually get the actuator to work. The glove box has hinges, good old school hinges. See what you can do with those. And there's a few other attack vectors, so have fun with it. Chris has also used a pin number. He unfortunately changed his pin number when we figured out what his pin number was. But should you be able to get hold of his app or his phone, or be able to intercept signals, hint, hint, you might be able to get into it that way too. So have some fun with it. That's actually a fun one. There's some amazing stuff out there. But yeah, Glovebox one was awesome. I mean, it was seriously a team effort. It took us less than a minute to break it. So this is the irony of the whole thing. It took us under a minute to break into the Tesla, which was fantastic. It took us another minute and a half, 2 minutes. It would have taken, actually, it took us longer than that because we had to find a freaking 9-volt battery. But if you find a 9-volt battery, you can pop a panel off of the front of the Tesla and pop the bonnet, which then gets you into the battery and you can start disconnecting shit and do all sorts. Don't touch the orange wires. There's like a tingly sensation. Really intense tingly sensation. Don't do it. Not fun. And so that got us into that. And I'm kidding you not. I mean, we're in the freaking Tesla. We've popped panels. We've done everything inside like 10 minutes. And like 2.5, 3 hours later, we're still trying to get into the freaking glove box. It's like we failed. But it was fun. All right. Other questions? Go for it. Yeah. Yeah. Give me your ID before you get out. So for me, if you assume somebody's on the inside, what you have to take a step back and go is like, okay, what eyes do I have on my environment? And this isn't going to put endpoint stuff all over the place. It's how well do I understand what I'm actually in control of? I mean, for me, the whole endpoint protection stuff is kind of crazy because you ask the question of any corporation, do you know where all of your endpoints are? Nobody does. Let alone the ones they've got on asset management, let alone everything else. So the question that goes, okay, let's go up a layer. What can I understand about the network it's traveling over? Either my network or networks associated with me or vendor networks or anything like that. How can I keep eyes on any of that effectively? And what I'm trying to do is not go, hey, go talk to our booth. But go talk to our booth. But without saying that, take a look at what's actually going on the network. That's one set of eyes. And it's not really saying the behavior analytics or the anomalous stuff. It's just at least knowing what's meant to be on the network versus what is or isn't on the network. The defaults, get rid of all the damn defaults in the environment. The education, the human education. Again, the problem we have these days is we educate people once a year. Don't click shit, don't send shit. P.S. remember it for another 364 days. Otherwise you're fired. Fuck use is that? You know, Mark Miller from Sonotype and I and a couple of other guys have been basically every single month putting something on the internet. It's January. It's tax season. Don't click shit from the bloody IRS. It's February. Valentine's Day. Nobody fucking loves you on the internet. Why are you clicking shit? And, you know, just every single month, just trying to reinforce it to users. It's not perfect, but it moves the bar from there to there. So now you can take your eye off of having to worry quite so much about the 100%. You've got to worry about maybe the 20 or 30%. So you can do stuff with that. And then starting, you know, the environment, you're just looking and keeping eyes on that one. And the education with leadership is a huge part of it. And some of it is literally sitting down and going, okay, what do you care about? Because when we go into organizations, we talk about risk and we talk about what we care about, but we don't necessarily understand what finance cares about, or what the leadership or the board cares about, or what manufacturing cares about. Manufacturing cares about the fact that their widget is in China, and we're beating the crap out of them with all these with all the bloody tariffs and stuff, and how are they going to move it, and how are they going to deal with it? That's their risk. And then they care about maybe transportation. So if you understand everybody else's risk and go, hey, here are my risks, how do we together reduce risk? Not how do I just reduce mine, how do I help you reduce some of your risks? I think that's a big part of it, and it's coming to the table that way, rather than coming to the table and going, hey, I've got all these risks and you need to give me money so I can fix them all. It's like, hey, I've got these challenges, hey, I know you have challenges, how can I help you? And you start to build that trust and collaborative relationship. It's not perfect, and again, we're never going to keep everybody out. I'm about to get yelled at, aren't I? Nope. Oh, you're awesome, I love you. Oh, do I get a hug? I get a hug, I like hugs. All right, got it. I don't have the best of answers, but part of it is visibility. Part of it is communication. Part of it is education. Again, it's all the human stuff. And that'll help to at least reduce some of it. And, go visit the booth. That's part of the reason I'm doing the detection deception stuff. It's as simple as that, because I don't see much else out there that's helping to reduce it. All right, one final question that I can answer in 20 seconds. Anything? Nothing? Good. All right, everybody, I love you guys. Thank you very, very much. Have a wonderful rest of the conference.